Jason was just home from work and turned on the baby monitor, smiling, looking at his wife and baby upstairs. He could still see how beautiful his wife looked and still fell as in love with her today as much, if not more, as the day they met. It was love at first sight for him, so he tells her anyway. But whether it was love at first sight, it definitely is love now. He was about to walk upstairs to his wife and the baby when there was a knock on the door. He answered it and couldn't believe his eyes when his wife was standing at the door right in front of him. He felt a shiver run up his spine, wondering if his wife is standing at the door, then who is upstairs with his baby? Mary, Jason's wife, asked him what was wrong. He said, "I don't know what's happening or how, but I was just watching you on the baby monitor and then you knocked on the door." Then suddenly Mary put on a face like she was just after seeing a ghost. I turned around and saw at the top of the stairs a woman that looked exactly like Mary. I felt a shiver run up my spine again. Suddenly, my wife ran up the stairs, shouting, "Get away from my baby, you maniac! Get away!" There was a fight between my wife and the woman, and suddenly my wife pushed the woman downstairs. She was dead on the impact of her head against the wall. My wife explained, "Jason, you know I love you, and you know that you mean everything to me, but that woman is my twin sister. I am so sorry to have to tell you this way, and I am so sorry I lied to you about my parents dying in a car crash. I feared you'd be turned off me if I said the truth. That's my twin sister. I know I told you. I never had any sisters, but I just didn't want any complications. My parents could never tell us apart. It made me sick we looked so alike. But we were so different. Even my parents could never tell us apart, except for a knife wound on her back that she got in a fight in high school. When she was a teenager, she got put into an asylum at 17 for murdering my parents, but last week she escaped. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you this sooner, I really should have." We decided to go to the police, and thankfully my wife didn't get arrested after the police knew her twin sister's history. That night we were in bed, and I felt a strange feeling. I don't know why. Then, out of the light of the moon, I felt a shiver go up my spine as I saw on my wife's back a scar that I never saw before. Because there was no scar before. I then realized my wife was not lying next to me, but her twin sister was, who killed her parents and who killed my beloved wife. I froze in fear, wondering what to do next. Then I saw a knife rise, and I heard words mumble in a sleepy tone. "Are you awake?" Gypsy Susie Black was a clairvoyant after realizing it years ago from when she was a little girl. She used to know if she got an A in school before she even did the exam. She knew if it was going to rain, or if it was going to be sunny, or if it was going to snow. She had crowds and crowds flock to her to get their future told. All Susie had to do was hold their hand and she would see their future. She was the real deal. One client was delighted with Susie. She had great news to tell her. She said, "Madame, I have looked into my crystal ball and I've great news to tell you. You have great things to look forward to in your future. You were working hard for years to get your business off the ground. Well, I can confirm to you now, your business will be off the ground in only a matter of weeks. And not only that, but it will be very, very successful and bring you in lots and lots of money. And you will be very, very happy doing what you're doing. I am telling you this now in confidence that this is true, and I would like you to come back to me in a few weeks' time or a few months and let me know how your business is doing. The woman smiled, and she was so happy with her reading. But then there was another woman, and Susie would tell her the truth, even though it would tear her apart. She said, "I am very sorry, but your boyfriend is going to lose his life in a month's time. He is working in a very dangerous job. I will not say what job it is, and I will not tell you how he's going to die, but you should know yourself. You are getting danger money from your husband from the job he's doing. I am getting a reading, and I am getting an image of him being a special agent or a detective working a very dangerous case. There's no way you will be able to stop your husband from doing what he's going to do to be killed. I hate bringing you this news, but I'm afraid it is the truth." The woman went home and told her husband, and her husband was working on a very, very dangerous case. One day she found it very strange. She held a client's hand, but didn't feel anything. She just saw fire. She couldn't tell what it meant. The next client was the same. She held her hand, and there was nothing she could feel. Just see fire. The client got angry, not being told anything, but Susie wasn't going to lie. She wasn't going to make up stuff, because she never lied. She knew that there was fire, there was heat, but what did it mean? Susie was worried. She lost her psychic powers, but then she realized she hadn't lost any of her powers. She was seeing the future. She heard people scream and went outside and could see fire in the sky. The reason she couldn't read anyone's future was because there was no future, and seconds later, Earth exploded into flames, bringing the end of the world.
I was home alone watching horror, and I felt tense as I hated being home alone. So the suspense of the movie added to my anxiety. I don't know why I'm such a crybaby. Maybe I should just not watch scary movies. I got a notification from my phone. It was a Snapchat notification. It was a message. It read, "Check my story." I wondered, who would it be from? As there was no photo on the profile, just black, I scrolled down my Snapchat contacts and viewed their story. I looked closer, squinting my eyes, as it was very dark. I could make out it was some sort of room. I jumped with fright when I realized it was my front door and the story was taken inside my hall. I looked up from the couch where I was sitting into the hall, but could not see anything. I realized the story wouldn't have been live, of course. Maybe it was my boyfriend, Jake, playing some stupid prank on me, but I still felt dread overcome me and was paralyzed with fear. Whoever this is could still be in my house. I got another notification and almost turned my phone off, but knew that wouldn't change anything if someone was actually in my house. I pressed the button and viewed the snap. This time it was a video. I could see the back of my head and my phone in my hand. Whoever was filming this snap was just behind me and is just behind me now. My heart jumped in my chest and I felt like screaming but couldn't as I was frozen with fear. I suddenly felt a hand touch my shoulder and jumped and screamed. A man walked around with a mask, then took the mask off and he stared right at me. Let me introduce myself. You can call me, Jake. You don't know me, as you were too busy stealing my phone the other day. I followed you home, and that's how I know where you live. I was going to call the police, but decided there would be something more creative I could do. I shouted, please, please, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't steal any phone. The man pulled out a phone. Oh, but you see, you did. I have it all here on camera. Luckily, my good old observant friend caught the whole thing while pretending to be busy texting. He showed me the camera and I felt disgust watching my twin sister kissing my boyfriend. I looked up in fear, hoping he would believe me. That is not me. That is my twin. I looked up in fear, hoping he would believe me. That is not me. That is my twin sister cheating with my goddamn boyfriend. Jake laughed. Do you expect me to believe that? I flicked through my phone and showed him a pic of me and my twin sister Sarah. He looked at it and then back to me. Well, where is your twin sister then? I was shaking with fear. She's at work. She will be home at 12. It was 11:30 now. I said, that bitch was kissing my boyfriend. I'll lead you right to her if you like. Jake smiled again and said, sounds like a plan. But work, wherever that is, well, that's not a place where I can exactly get revenge. I got out my phone and Jake looked at it to see was it his. I knew it wasn't. I'll call her to come straight home. Let me use my home phone. I have no credit. He nodded. Go on then. Call her now. I picked up the phone and after a few rings she answered. Please come back home straight after work. I'm in trouble with my project. I need some help. The deadline is tomorrow. It's an emergency. I hung up before any reply. He said to me, it looks like your twin sister is a thief and someone that stole her own twin sister's boyfriend. Wow, that's bad. This bitch will have what's coming to her. I smiled. You can say that again? If I knew about her being with my boyfriend, I would have tracked you down myself to you teach her a lesson. At 12:10, my sister pulled up in the driveway in a car and knocked on the door. I opened it and Jake was standing at the side. My sister walked in and a cop came in behind her. Once I saw the cop, I screamed, please help, help, he's in my house. I admitted to the cop afterwards. It was me that stole Jake's phone, but had to pretend it was my twin sister. I held the mute button down when I made the call to my sister. I spoke certain words, so instead of her hearing, I'm in trouble with my project, I need some help, the deadline is tomorrow, it's an emergency. She heard, I'm in trouble, I need help, it's an emergency. I was happy that it worked, pressing mute with certain words. So that is all she heard. And I will never ever steal anything again.
Hello, my name is Paul. Let me tell you about a really frightening experience I had. I was so shocked by what happened that now when I go out, I make sure to check for my phone to make sure it's there and look around if I'm walking alone on a street to make sure no one is following me. I don't even feel safe in my own home. A person's home is meant to be their sanctuary, but I don't even feel safe there. I was having a night out with my friend Jason, and we were at a bar. It was quiet, but that suited me. I didn't like busy clubs or bars. I just liked to chill out and relax. We were enjoying our drinks and chatting when I checked my phone to make a call. I was upset when I realised my phone was gone. I asked my friend to call it to see could we hear it. Maybe I dropped it somewhere, and the bar was so quiet that if I did, I more than likely would hear it ring. My friend gave me his phone, and there was an answer after 3 rings. There was just a weird giggle at the end of the phone, and when I rang back, there was no answer. Later that night, when I got home, I saw my phone sitting on the sofa where I now remembered I must have left it. But then it hit me, who was the person who answered giggling? Suddenly I heard movement behind me, and when I looked, there was nothing. I heard what sounded like a dog howling and quickly followed it down to my basement. When I walked down the steps and turned the light in the basement on, I saw what looked like a starved boy looking up at me, and he gave the same giggle that was on the phone. I got such a fright I ran up the steps and locked the door and rang the police. When the police arrived, there was no boy to be found in the basement. I watched TV that night and tried to figure out where the boy went. Suddenly my phone rang, and when I picked it up, I could hear the giggling. I shouted into the phone, and when I looked at it, I realised the battery died. But the giggling was still there. I froze in fear knowing that the giggling must have came from inside my living room. I looked around but could see nothing. I never heard the giggling again. But wherever I go, I feel like that creepy boy is going to pounce on me and attack me while giggling. I can't understand what it is, but I'm living in fear constantly. Everything changed one night when I was bored and I decided to look through the attic to see could I find anything cool. I came across a really big box of old comics, and one that really caught my eye was a comic called Weird Tales from 1928. It had a weird-looking octopus monster called Kulalu, who was created by a writer called H.P. Lovecraft. I went downstairs into my bedroom and couldn't stop reading. It was so exciting and so interesting. It was like the comic was written just for me. I found it so awesome. Suddenly I heard a bang, and I didn't know where it was coming from. It seemed to be coming from under my bed. I froze with fear, as the comic I was reading was spooky enough, besides an unexplained noise coming from under my bed. I was afraid to look, but knew that I had to, as I would be even more frightened if I didn't. When I looked, I fell with fright, with what looked like a giant octopus jumping out from under my bed. I screamed, then suddenly I woke up. I was grateful. It was all a nightmare. But I couldn't understand. How did I dream about something that I never read or heard about? I researched Kulalu and Weird Tales on my laptop, and the comic did exist. I wonder How did I dream of something I can't even remember hearing of? I kept asking myself that question. I was relieved it was just a dream, but it bugged me. How did I dream of something that did exist, but I can't ever remember hearing it? Anyway, I was glad I was okay, and just tried to look on the bright side it was all a dream. I realised it was dinner time already, and heard someone shouting at me. It was my mom calling me for dinner. She was just back from work. I sat down at the kitchen table and asked Mom, "What's for dinner?" She said to me, "I got into a mad mood today and decided to try something new. I bet you couldn't guess." I said, "No, Mum, what is it?" She said, "Octopussy." I froze in fear, thinking of the octopussy-like creature in the comic Kulalu. Then I saw a book lying on the kitchen table, and the author was H.P. Lovecraft. I looked back at my mom, and her eyes turned red. Mark was on his way to a psychologist for another appointment. He was tired of people saying he was deluded, not believing him. He saw weird things more and more lately, but what frustrated him so much was no one believing him. He knew what he saw was real. He reached the building and went inside and took the elevator to the 3rd floor where his psychologist had his office. While he was in the elevator, he was thinking of what to tell his psychologist this week. In the office, Mark's psychologist spoke. "Oh, Mark, don't worry. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We just need to find out a few things about what happened in your past that might be causing these breaks in reality. I am going to show you a few drawings, and I would kindly appreciate if you told me what you saw in them, please." Mark's psychologist held up the first photo, and Mark looked at it for a few seconds, then said, "I see a dragon." Then he held up another. "And what do you see in this one, please, Mark?" Mark yet again took another few seconds to look at it, and then said, "Some kind of alien." Mark was getting impatient with this exercise. He saw many times in the movies, and he often wondered what it was in aid of. It was like it was just trying to find out, was the person crazy? And he knew he wasn't crazy. He knew he saw what he saw. The only thing is, why doesn't anyone believe him? He felt like if someone just believed him, maybe they would go away. His psychologist held up another photo. Mark took longer this time, and then said, "It's obviously a gun." His psychologist smiled and said, "Okay, Mark, this is going to take a while to sort out, but I can guarantee you that what you see is not real, and that's for sure." 30 minutes later, the session had ended, and Mark had left the building. His psychologist felt strange. He felt kind of faint. Then he froze in fear when he saw a dragon fly into the room. Then what looked like an alien came into the room. He screamed out in horror, but before his receptionist could come into the room to see what was wrong, a gun floated in the air over to his head, and then the gun went off. When the receptionist came into the room, she screamed and called the police, telling them he had shot himself in the head. Mark wondered why his psychologist killed himself, but he was relieved. His visions had stopped.